two showdowns this evening. We got a two-game classic, so lots of options here. We'll make it easy for you. Who was the best DFS play tonight, Geoff?
Well, who's left? I mean, who's left to roster?
I can't confirm. I'm glad you brought that up. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum reportedly did not test out a COVID protocol. So you're looking at Nick Mullins tonight. Go ahead and tell me why you believe he's the best play.
I actually don't think he's a bad play, but I don't think he's the best play. I feel like Hunter Renfrow is a guy you can rely on here. I mean, this is a player who, obviously, you know, with all the losses that the Raiders have endured over the year with the receiving core. I mean, Hunter Renfrow has been the steady arrow, the guy who just shows up every week and gets, you know, now he gets 10 plus targets every week as well. Over 20 DK fantasy points in his last 3 games. And I mean, look, you know, normally Cleveland isn't a defense we necessarily want to be targeting, but you know, I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored in this game, but I do think the Raiders are going to have to pass the ball to move the ball at all. And I think Hunter Renfrow has proven that he can get open against anyone. I think you take the 15 plus points here that you're not guaranteed, but you're in a very good spot to get, and you move on, because I think this game will feature a lot of slow pace. I think this game will see the clock burn off fast. And I think the one guarantee here is that Hunter Renfrow will get a bunch of targets. All
right, Pearce, trying to look at all the salaries here and find someone who's around like $300 who you say is the best play.
Well, that's the truth, though. I mean, if we're looking for point per dollar upside, then no one's better than Justin Fields in this spot. He's got rushing potential. He's going to pass the ball. He's obviously going to have the ball in his hands for most of the game. Justin Jefferson can have a big game, but you got to pay up for Justin Jefferson. Justin Fields is where you go. He's played well in his last 3 full games, 29, 19, and 21 fantasy points. They changed play calling. And if you look around him, it's really his development. The offensive line's still terrible. His receivers aren't any better. Montgomery rushing the ball definitely allows the balanced offense and maybe gives him a little bit more opportunity. But either way, it looks like Fields is playing better. He's scrambling a lot more now late in the season. He's going to scramble again tonight, probably get you that 70-yard rushing floor that he's shown over the last 3 games. And as I mentioned the other day, when he faced Green Bay, a team that eliminates deep passes, and he is a deep passer averaging over 10 intended air yards per pass attempt, he completely changed who he was. He took what he could get. He had an intended air yard per pass attempt of 4 yards a pass. That is a huge change in approach. I think it's a developmental leap. And that's the kind of stuff that he's going to need to do against a pretty tough Mike Zimmer scheme tonight. And I think he can get it done.
Reid, haven't heard anyone mention Justin Jefferson yet, who has scored more than 25 DK fantasy points in 3 of his last 5 games.
Yeah, I think these guys are getting a little bit too contrarian. Like, Hunter Renfrow is fine. And Justin Fields is also fine. He's 4th in big time throw percentage as well. And that can move the ball down the field. But at the same time, he doesn't pass enough, and his legs, they're like, he can get done with his legs. But yeah, we haven't mentioned Justin Jefferson, who's just a target monster. He's 8,500 though, so to get value back at 3x, he's going to have to do pretty much, you know, a little bit higher than what he's done on the road. Nick Chubb against the Raiders, a lowly Raider run defense. Also, who else do the Browns have except for Nick Chubb? But I'm actually going somewhere else. The Jets' favorite player, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins. Let's go. On the road, and I'm talking about Showdown and DFS, right? Because it's not just the best player, it's the best value, and that's why Hunter Renfrow was chosen. That's why Justin Fields. Let's talk about value here for Kirk Cousins at $6,800 if you're going on that main slate of the 2 games. He's averaging 23.2 points on the road. That is 4x his price right now. The guy has thrown over 2 touchdowns in the last 6-7 games. So there's value there on the prop side. And he gets a Chicago defense that hasn't really played well against quarterbacks, not named like some lowly 2nd or 3rd string quarterbacks, right? Against the Houston Texans, against the bad teams that Chicago defense has played against. Look, Kirk on primetime, you can read me all the stats on that. The last time he was out on primetime, which was not too long ago, he won. Mm-hmm. They won. Yes, he gave up a bad interception late, but they still won. I think in this matchup, it's Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and Jefferson too is this guy's 2nd on the team in red zone targets and 10th or 11th in the league in red zone targets. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a big game.
Dude, he ranks 6th in passing yards, 5th in passing touchdowns, has the league's lowest interception percentage, Just
16 touchdowns to 1 interception on the road.
It is incredible. That's that 1%, league's lowest interception
so incredible
percentage.
that the Vikings are actually going to miss the playoffs, and that's how incredible. Everyone's just so shocked in Minnesota that they're like, we're not even going to go to the playoffs this year.
Absolutely not.
Cousins is playing so well.
I'd be hammering plus 300 Vikings to make the playoffs all day long. Easiest money on planet Earth. Raiders and Browns, again, guys, postponed from Saturday. Again, Nick Mullins to be under center for the Browns. So Raiders are missing Waller. Are we looking at an under here in this one? 40.5 right now, Reid.
Yeah, I don't think Captain Planet Renfro is going to do nearly enough.
He's been on fire. He's been on absolute fire.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we didn't talk about Hunter Renfro at the top with you, Emerson, since he's on your fantasy football
Yeah, I'm not
team.
like Geoff. I'm not a fraud.
True.
I'm not a fake and a phony.
Like, look, the Raiders, other than that penalty-ridden game that they played on Thanksgiving with Dallas, where they got how many calls going their way and 4,000 penalties where they scored 36, they haven't scored over 16 points since week 9. It's been very, very bad for the Raiders offense and the Raiders defense. While they can give up points, the Browns have Nick Mullins, and they don't have Jarvis Landry. They have Nick Chubb. They're going to run the ball 30-plus times. Dearness Johnson probably going to worked into this game as well as Kareem Hunt on the COVID-19 list. So, yeah, give me the under.
All right, Ulrich, I know you're Mr. Over typically. You leaning that way?
Yeah, typically. Unfortunately, we don't have a typical spot or a typical slate or a typical anything this week. No, I like the under here. And this one is moving. It's moving close to getting under 40. But I really think that's where it should be. I think that's where the line should be set. I mean, you've got a Cleveland team here. You know, the last time they were without Baker Mayfield at quarterback, they played what was essentially like I think it was a 14-7 game, and they ran the ball like 22, 24 plus times with Dearness Johnson. Sorry, it was 17-14. And they played another AFC West opponent there in the Denver Broncos. And I think the big factor here is too, it's not just the Cleveland side of the ball that we know is going to be conservative. It's the Raiders. I mean, this is a team that's really struggled over the last couple of weeks, and they struggled because they don't have their best receiver in Darren Waller in the lineup, and they can't run the ball. So, you've still got a decent Cleveland Browns pass rush going up against, Derek Carr, who's not very good under pressure and doesn't have his best receiver. How are the Raiders going to score here? No, you keep hammering the under here until it gets to a point where you just don't hammer it anymore, but it's not there yet. Wait till it gets under 40.
Pearce, it's a super low number for this day and age in the NFL, but with everyone missing. Also, freezing conditions, stiff blowing wind coming off Lake Erie here. Yeah, under?
No one does the trends better than Reid T. Fowler.
Yeah.
He stands for trends, but let me try. Here is a trend for you. Last 8 times that the Browns are in a game with a 39.5 to 43.5 under, the game has gone under. 7-1 the under is. So when the sportsbook says the Browns and their opponents aren't going to score points, they typically don't score opponents. And if it's going to be cold in one of those northern Ohio days, I don't think that Las Vegas is going to play very well. Las Vegas, Reid kind of went over that Thanksgiving game. They're 3-3 to the overs and unders. Well, the 2 other games that they went over, that was because Kansas City scored 40 points or more. Kansas City isn't here to score 40 points today to help out Las Vegas. Their offense is not good. The Browns' offense is incredibly depleted, but they still have some key players in the defense that are going to keep them in. I mean, we've seen this game go from Browns 6 to Browns dogs by 6 to now they're just down by 3. I think the Browns defense and the sportsbook believes that this Browns team can compete, keep this thing pretty low scoring. This is going under.
Hey, Pearce, other than their 24-point quarter last week against the Packers, the Bears have struggled the past few games on offense. Vikings haven't scored less than 26 since, week 9 here? Do you have Minnesota covering? It's 6.5 right now. They're the road favorite. They've been terrible at covering, especially against bad teams, but I don't know, the Bears are even worse, right?
Yeah, the Vikings are 7-5 against the spread, which isn't great, but the Bears over the last 8 have been even worse at 1-7 against the spread. And I mean, you can throw out the trends. The only trend that you need to know in the NFL right now is, are your players healthy? Are they able to play? And the Bears are without Khalil Mack. They might be without Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan's out. They have 7 defensive backs that are not going to play in this game, and that includes their starting cornerbacks and their starting safeties. I mean, we kind of buried the lead. We like Kirk Cousins. We like Justin Jefferson normally, but we really like them when they're facing a team that doesn't have a secondary. We've been saying this for the Ravens and other teams. When they don't have secondaries, they get destroyed. This is setting up for a really good game for the offense. And I know I like Justin Fields, and I think he can put together some good drives, but I also think there's going to be some bad drives. There's going to be some Mike Zimmer disguises and blitzes and coverage schemes that are going to cause problems, and they're just not going to be able to keep this game within a touchdown.
Geoff, we know the Vikings have been very up and down this season. One of just 2 teams to lose to the Lions this year.
Yeah, rough. Look, I don't think you need to throw out all the trends for this game. I mean, Minnesota, going back to 2019 under Mike Zimmer, is 8-14 ATS after a loss. Yes, this team is up and down because their head coach is up and down, and they don't respond well to winning. They never have with Kirk Cousins. Yeah, look, Pearce is right. The Bears are dealing with a bunch of myriad of injury issues, but as bad as the Bears defense is going to be against the pass, guess what? The Vikings don't do anything good on defense. They're bottom 5 against the run. They're bottom 5 in terms of yards per pass attempt against, too. Like, Darnell Mooney could easily go for a long touchdown here. This is just way too many points to be giving a Vikings team that has been terrible at covering in this spot and doesn't have a good defense. I'll be dead honest. My favorite play for this game is the over 45 or 45.5, whatever it's at right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. But if you're asking me who I'm taking on the spread, there's not a chance I'm trusting the Minnesota Vikings to cover here. I think Justin Fields will put up some points against this defense. And if the Bears do good, get out to a lead, like David Montgomery could just run the ball a lot too. So I kind of like the Bears here. Wait and see if we can get up to +7, because I think that's where it's headed by game time.
Yeah, total 45.5 right now. Fowler, Vikings should be well rested, though. They've had 11 days in between games.
Yeah, it's really good for Dalvin Cook. I mean, if you're looking at his props, or if you have him season long, you really like that. And to Geoff and to Pearce's point, like with the Vikings, it's a little bit harder to trust, right? And like even though they got guys healthy and the Bears don't, look at the Vikings. You know, in their last, I don't know, every single game this season, it's been a 1-score game, and they've lost on like last second drives, or they've won on last second drives. So for them to be a touchdown favorite, I think it's a fool's errand. I think the Bears getting 6.5 points is definitely there. We talked about Justin Fields. He's a guy that got 2 passing touchdowns, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, against the Green Bay Packers defense. And while it might have been a variance of sorts, it still begs the question that the Bears still have a guy like Justin Fields and players on the outside that could attack this pass defense. Rashad Breeland got cut earlier this week, getting into a verbal altercation, and he was a starting cornerback and had some of the worst stats at that position. So that just goes to show you that this defense against the run, against the pass, not very good. So give me the Bears covering, but the Vikings still winning. Okay,
Reid, favorite player prop in this game, Vikings Bears.
Yeah, I'm Cole Kmet under 30.5 receiving yards is probably where I'm going at. Look, all the ancillary stats are fine. Like, he's getting running a lot of routes, getting targets on his routes per run, but right now, his target share has slowly decreased. I think it's 16% team share over the past 4 weeks per PFF. And even though we feel like Fields gets to commit a lot, it's not necessarily for those bigger plays, right? That's Darnell Mooney, like Geoff laid out. Allen Robinson, if he can stay healthy, he's someone that I like as well. I want to attack the outside. And Minnesota's defense, if there is a good spot, it's their defense against tight ends. They're top 5 in defending tight ends, meaning that they give up like the 5th lowest in terms of points and production to the opposing tight ends. So under 30.5, Cole Kmet.
Geoff, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I definitely think if you're looking at Kmet, like, I like the over on the receptions, but I agree with Reid. I don't really want to bet on him over receiving yards because he catches like 4 yards a pass. I do like attacking Darnell Mooney's over, though, in the receiving yards. He's 53.5. You can just take the over there. Again, no Allen Robinson. He's had a couple slow games, but like the downfield targets are there. Justin Fields connected on some big plays last week. It just wasn't with Darnell Mooney. I think that switches here against the Minnesota Vikings pass defense. We've already kind of rallied about how bad they are at giving up plays. I think you can go to the player props on the DraftKings Sportsbook too if you're looking for, a little bit bigger odds than just the regular, minus 115. You're getting to take the over, or 110. You're getting to take the over on his receiving yards. You can go Darnell Mooney, 125 yards plus a touchdown, plus 1,500 tonight. I like Darnell Mooney in this spot a lot.
All right, Pearce. I have producer Drew dropping in Slack. JP Holtz plus 1,600 to score a touchdown. Highest odds.
Am I allowed to say who's that? Wait, who we got?
Yeah, it's JP. Okay, yeah. No, I had to look it up too.
I'm going to give you guys a reasonable pick, and then you drop something like that on me. Justin Jefferson over 94.5 yards. I know the number seems high, but if you look at his game log, with or without Adam Thielen, he's still going over 100 yards quite frequently, and that's in normal matchups. This is a game where I don't think Thielen's going to play. If Thielen plays, he's going to be extremely limited, and they're going to face a Bears secondary, which we already talked about, which is extremely depleted. So give me Justin Jefferson over 94.5 yards. He might get over this in the first half.
JP stands for John Paul, by the way, and he played college football at Pittsburgh, which I'm sure Samir behind the scenes loves. Need you quick here on Slated Proof Pick. Favorite bet on the board between these two games, Reid?
Kirk Cousins over 1.5 passing touchdowns, minus 165. He's 10-3 hitting his over prop in passing touchdowns.
Pearce.
Kirk Cousins over 259.5. Look at his primetime stats and ignore the Thursday night short week slates. Primetime stats are through the roof against a terrible Bears secondary.
Oh, this is incredible. Go ahead, Ulrich.
I mean, whatever. We're going to be here talking tomorrow about like a 200-yard, 3-interception game for Kirk Cousins. Now it's clear. I like the over in the Minnesota Vikings-Chicago Bears game. It's two bad defenses. I think you could even parlay it with an under in the Cleveland Browns Raiders game as well.